Welcome back to SaharaTV viewers. My name is Faloye, and I hope you guys have enjoying our coverage of the 2015 Nigeria gubernatorial election. Please keep it here as we continue to give you updates and more programs on the elections and what's going on. But right now, I'm joined by two political pundits, and I'm looking forward to their comments as they continue to give us some overview of the whole gubernatorial election. And right now, I'm joined by social commentator and political pundit Ernest Danjuma Carter. Ernest, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back.
Thank you, man. And I'm joined by Dr. Emmanuel Anyasi. Welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you so much. So let me just ask you guys real quick, and Danjuma, I'll start with you. Yeah. Just give us a general overview of the whole gubernatorial election. What's your take on that?
You know, I think it's actually very interesting. The dynamics at play in the gubernatorial elections are a bit different from the presidential elections 2 weekends ago. The winners and the states are not as divided, and they're not as divided along party lines as, you know, sort of the national elections were. Right. And you know, there are definitely some key states, you know, that everybody is you know, hedging their bets on. You know, Lagos being one of them, Rivers, in the north there's Kaduna, there's Plateau, there's Jigawa, Taraba. There's a couple of key races to watch. There are obviously some states where gubernatorial elections are not taking place. You know,
right? Yes, and, it's the House of Assembly states.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. I can imagine, obviously, the turnout would have dropped from last week's where there was a curfew, so it was a mandated curfew, so nobody could go out. Now it's a bit more, it's relaxed this weekend, where people, you know, can go about their daily routines as they, you know, after, you know, if they choose to vote or not. Yeah. So turnout definitely we're seeing is down. But the enthusiasm is still there in a lot of these races, and these are very important races as well. Maybe even more important than the presidential elections, because these governors actually, you know, the impact on the people is felt more in the states than, you know, sort of on, you know, from the federal level, you know, and so they're interesting to watch.
Yeah, on our panel earlier with Rudolph and Kwesi, we actually spoke about that earlier, the importance of the gubernatorial election. I think the citizens feel more closer, believe me, to the candidates,
because these are the state elections. You know, last weekend were, you know, the presidential and the National Assembly. You know, and so those are the people that they send to the, you know, to the capital to go represent them. Yeah. But you know, what happens in the states is just as important.
Yes, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us again. And I'll throw you the same question. What's your general overview of the election? And like Danjuma said, I was going to say that it seems like the turnout has been very, very low. Abysmal. Yeah, go ahead.
Usually we have, in this election, we have 29 states that are really...
29 states, correct.
29 for governorship, and then all 36 states we're going to have the House of Assembly elections. We have 7 states that are not contesting: Osun, Ekiti, Ondo, Rivers, Kogi State, and then we have Kogi, then we have Edo State. Edo State. Yeah, so generally, it's a local election, because it's within the states, and then we expect to see some bandwagon effect in Nigerian politics. We expect to see some bandwagon effect with the Buhari election. We expect some states to follow suit. Right. Then again, the candidates themselves begin to matter when you come to the local elections. Who are the personalities involved, and who are behind them? The people behind them. Those really matter. And then within the PDP, they had a lot of problems because of the primaries. During their primaries, they tried to impose candidates. I think that's backfired on them a lot. Then there are some states too where, like I said, there's a personality clash. Right. Like in River State, it's going to be between the Jonathans and the Amechis. I think it's a supremacy fight. Then in Lagos State, it's going to be between Jonathan, Obanikoro, the Tinubu Aziz. Right. Then in Delta State, we're also going to find the PDP, and then we have the governor, who's from the Urobo area.
Okay.
Delta State is going to be very interesting because we're going to talk about Delta
definitely.
State.
We're going to touch on that.
Then we'll talk about places like Kaduna State. We have El-Rufai and the incumbent governor.
Yes.
They remember that the vice president is from that state.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things at stake in then for Kwara State, we see what is happening between.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff. There's actually a lot of stuff going on in Kwara, but I know, unfortunately, due to time constraint, we can't touch every state. But let's just talk about some key states. Kaduna, for instance. Danjuma, I'll let you touch on that. Just give us a general overview and what's happened. Let the viewers know.
Kaduna, what's actually interesting about Kaduna State is it's the political capital of the North.
Okay.
It's pretty much always been that way, since independence. And so people always, it's always a very key state to watch, to kind of see, to get a feel of where the country is.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There are a few states that kind of give you the pulse of where the country is at. Lagos is one of them.
Yes.
Imo is another one of them. And Kogi and Kaduna. Those are states where you want to watch to see what's going on. The interesting part is PDP has actually never lost in Kaduna State.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
PDP has always been in power. They've always had the governor of the state. And so this election is the last election was very close.
Yes.
But this governor he's actually never ran for governor. So this is he took over as a deputy governor from the last PDP governor who passed. And so the dynamics at play, obviously now you have a national figure running for state election, as you do in a lot of the states. So
yes.
The dynamics, start to matter a lot. And from the results that are coming in now, obviously these are unofficial results, and they're very, very few from a very limited number of local governments. We have from about maybe 4 or 5 local governments of about 23.
Right.
Nasir El-Rufai is polling at almost 77%
really? Wow.
to 23% of the incumbent governor. So you kind of see, I mean, the final margins will probably be a lot closer.
Right.
But beyond that, Kaduna is a state that's kind of divided. The local governments are very, they're divided along sort of religious lines as well.
Definitely.
And so, the north being more Muslim and the south being where the Christians are. But from the trends that we're seeing, I mean, obviously both candidates are, from the northern part of the state, but I think their reputations are starting to matter a lot more. And I think people, from the trends you're seeing, it's not looking good for PDP. It might be their first first time that they actually lose the state.
Exactly. So I don't know if these terms pertain to Nigeria, but one state that you think is going, one party that you think is going to win, automatically kind of becomes a swing state, as we could say, right? Exactly. So that's happening all over. So Doctor, please, I'll go to you. Give us a little overview about I can say Delta State, please.
In Delta State,
and the dynamics.
I happen to come from Delta State, and then what happened in Delta State is. It's very interesting because if you look at Delta State, the creation the Igbos wanted the Anyama state, then the Urobos wanted the Delta state. And then Babangida played the trick and then had a Delta state and put the state capital at Asaba.
Right.
So the wife for the late wife from Asaba.
Yeah.
So now what happened is that the Urobos happen to have the majority.
Okay.
So they are more, and then the Delta Igbos would. They have about 8 local governments out of the 24 local governments. And then the other people have about 16 local governments. And since the creation, the Urobos tend to have produced all the governors,
right.
Starting from Felix Ibru, Ibori, then Ibori's cousin, Uduaga, also is from that zone. So PDP actually zoned their governorship to the Delta North.
Okay.
But the people were so disorganized that they fought among themselves, and virtually Okowa won the primaries. But the problem with that is that, remember that he has only 8 local governments.
Okay.
And you need 2/3, which means you need 16 local governments to win.
Right.
So, and then the APC candidate is from that zone, Otega.
Okay.
But the problem with Otega is that the Great Ogboru is from that zone too. Great Ogboru is from the zone. So now we are looking at a situation where they are going to divide that vote. And we may end up, if Okowa doesn't have the required 2/3 of the states,
Right.
16 local governments,
May have a runoff.
then we may have a runoff.
Wow, that's
We may have a runoff. But the other thing, people are asking for change. But the APC presented somebody from the Urobo area.
Yeah.
So if the APC had presented somebody from Delta North, say somebody like Patutomi, would have been an easy, an easy one. But the way it is now, I think it can be anybody's game.
That's interesting, though. So, even within a state, people not just voting within party lines. It looks like they're voting within tribal lines.
Tribal lines,
interesting. Great. So let's, of course, Lagos, of course, is definitely one of the key states, and I know it will be a huge win for the APC so that they can align with the presidential election and win the state. But, the PDP is also going to put up a good fight. Real quick, because I know we have some time constraint and we're running out of time. Tell us, what's your overview of Lagos? Real quick.
Well, Lagos, I mean, we talked about this last week.
Right.
This idea that, somehow Lagos needs to align itself with the national government is just, it's a bit ridiculous. Because what does that say about all the other states that are not, you know what I mean? If you have a good candidate, then vote a good candidate in.
Okay.
And, if your claim to fame is, where... we need Lagos to be in line with the national party, then you really don't have a case. What I did say to people in the green room when we were just talking is Lagos really has they have a good problem, which is the choices between good and better, right? And so they don't really have a bad situation where, but from what I'm seeing in the exit polling, it appears it's a very, very close race.
It's going to be a very tight race.
It's definitely going to be very close, and whoever wins, I mean, APC have shown. I think what you want to do is reward good governance.
Right.
And APC has proven themselves, at least in the last 8 years, that they care about more than just party politics.
Right.
But again, you have a very good candidate in Jimmy Agbaje as well. So I think it'll be curious to see how Lagos turns out.
Don't let the Oba come for you. Mentioning Agbaje. Doctor, I'll give you the same question as well.
Yeah, looking at
Lagos,
looking at the presidential exit poll, because I have the result here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
In the result, the APC polled 7,92460, and PDP polled 632,327.
Wow. In the presidential election.
In the presidential election. So it was a very close race.
Yes, very close.
Very close race. And then if you look at Lagos again, the Southwest generally has not always aligned with the center. They've always been in the opposition.
Right.
The only difference this time is the progressive. Because the Southwest had only been progressive from Awolowo, UPN, and all that.
Right.
So, again, if you look at the two candidates that are contesting, Jimmy Agbaje and Ambode, Jimmy Agbaje was in ACN.
Okay.
So he was in ACN, but when he lost that, he went to PDP.
Yeah, no.
So both of them are actually Tinubu's people.
Yes, that's a good point.
So both of them are actually Tinubu's people. So whoever wins, even Jimmy Agbaje, if he wins, I foresee him defecting to APC eventually, because he is part of them. The other person is remember that Jimmy Agbaje defeated Obanikoro.
Yes.
And the people behind Jimmy Agbaje right now, they are not, as they say in Nigeria, they are not bed of the same feathers. People like Bode George, people like Obani Koro, these people are behind him, you know, and do they really belong to the same camp? The Jimmy Agbaje and this guy. Then if you look at what the Oba said, I don't think they're going to play a lot of role.
Right.
There's a lot of noise about the Igbo, but I don't think that's going to be very, very relevant.
But you know, real quick, I don't even want what the Oba said to overshadow, you know, a good race, because I don't even think he needed to say that about Ambode, to be honest with you, because I thought Ambode was a very valid candidate. I mean, the guy's a smart dude, very intelligent dude. But since you brought it up, and I know we have to round up real soon, but what did you think about the inflammatory comments of the Oba?
While it shouldn't have, it shouldn't. I mean, there were ludicrous comments. You know, it shouldn't have a role in the election in the elections. Right. But what he was saying was pretty much the problem that a lot of people in Lagos have with, you know, sort of voting for APC, where they have this paternalistic idea that Lagos State belongs to them, and you know that Lagos State, you know, either belongs to. I mean, because if you see the people he quoted, he's like, oh, you know, I didn't even have to listen to Asiwaju or I forgot the other gentleman that the Oba quoted, as if to say the party is between the Oba, Asiwaju, and as if Lagos is theirs to divide. And so for me, I actually want to see change in Lagos, because that actually shows, because Lagos State, even though they voted ACN in the last two elections, voted overwhelmingly for PDP, overwhelmingly. So they didn't just find themselves in opposition. They created that opposition to the national government. They lost by 1 million votes in the last election. Okay. And so, you know.
Yeah, Doctor, I will use that to round up on. What's your take on what Oba said?
What the Oba said, he said they're going to throw people in the lagoon and all that.
And some people say that was taken out of context, but that's his, the Oba that's his personal view. Okay. Which is a freedom of speech. He has a right to say whatever he wants to say. But for people to take it, maybe because of his personality and all that. But again, how many people we realize that during the presidential election, the president went to the Obas, and they did influence the election a lot.
I think what people miss from this, though, if I can just make that comment, is that people don't understand that the value of his comments may not be before the elections. If Ambode ends up losing, what the Oba has done is create that tension that Jimmy Agbaje was not, he didn't win legitimately with the indigenous vote, as if to say he shipped in people from the southeast to come vote for him, and that's the tension that, you know, even if they're off the cuff, you know, comments or, you know, taken out of context, I think they're very important, and they're very.
Well, my last comment is that.
Yes, go ahead.
My last comment is that both Jimmy Agbaje and Ambode, Akiwumi Ambode, they are both Yorubas.
Okay.
You're right.
So whoever wins is for the benefit of the Yoruba. The Igbos or the non-resident indigenous. Okay. I don't think they have anything to lose. I think this is just being overblown by people.
You know, thank you so much. But it just boils down to the fact that, you know, people think that Lagos is a Yoruba state, you know, and people want to say that it's any man's land. And, you know, I kind of agree that, you know, it should just be a Nigerian citizen state. Yeah. And so should all other states.
And they have to do away with, and I saw on Twitter, now that Buhari has won, one of the things that they think he should do is do away with this state of origin nonsense. Because if you're born and you're raised in a state, you can't now, you know, sort of try to pin somebody to a state where they, you know what I mean? It's a bit of a ridiculous, like someone whose parents are from Lagos but was born and raised in Kaduna and never went to Lagos. Why do they have any more of a right to Lagos than the tax-paying citizens of Lagos, who have been, you know, the people who actually fund, you know, the same Oba that makes all this noise.
Yeah, Doctor, go ahead.
But what you have to realize that even the Constitution says wherever you are born, you are from that place. You are a Nigerian. Okay. But you see, it's the people. It's at you can look at the genesis the biology of the country. How did the country form? We're formed traditionally from tribal settings.
As a business deal, yeah.
That's the way we are set. We're not set like America, where people came from different places.
Right.
Even in Britain, they have the way that the Scottish and all these people. So there's nothing wrong in people being identified their tribe or wherever they come from. But I think the problem is that we have not been able to harness the benefits of this diversity. Our inability to harness this, we tend to elaborate the differences rather than look at the similarities.
And embrace them.
And embrace them. I think that's the biggest problem we have. And if we have a leader who can embrace them and harness this thing, I think we do very well.
Yeah. Guys, thank you very much for a very, very interesting segment. I really enjoyed it. And that's the only time we have. So, guys, please continue to watch SaharaTV as we continue to bring you coverage, updates, and more commentary on the 2015 Nigerian gubernatorial election. My name is Faloye, and I've been joined by Danjuma Carter and Dr. Emmanuel Anyasi. We'll be right back. Thank you, guys.